Welcome to Iron Age Marketing, your weekly dose of inspiration and wisdom, helping coaches, creatives, and business owners alike build authority and generate leads through podcasting. I'm Nikki P, and welcome. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Iron Age Marketing. I'm Nikki P, here as always in our reloaded system here, 2.0. I have a guest today that a woman I've been working with for years at this point. Feels like it's been a while. Susie St. Angelo, one of my clients, and I thought that it would be wonderful to have you on to talk about, and for the audience, the difference that podcasting meant going in versus where you're at now, and kind of how the value proposition of what you actually get out of it has changed. But why don't we start you out by giving a short little introduction about yourself and maybe what brought you to podcasting in the first place?
Thank you, Nikki, for having me on your podcast. I'm flattered and honored you've asked me to take part in this, and I hope I can be of help to your listeners and viewers. My name is Susie St. Angelo. I went by Susan forever, but I am being my authentic self, and that means I go by Susie now. I am a recovering banker. I burn out of my career, my health, and my marriage many years ago. Left my career and then realized I was not feeling well, and then was dealing with my marriage issues, and so that led me on a different course. That being to get healthy, and I utilized a health coach during that process and became a health coach. And during that time, as I'm establishing my business and, trying to get an impact out there, my daughter-in-law and my niece both said, "You know what, Susie, you need to do a podcast." This was 6 years ago. And I said, "You got to be kidding. I'm scared to death of it. I don't know anything about that." The more I thought about it, it really aligned with an outlet for what I do as a health coach and getting information out. And, um, and so, it's a creative outlet, and it was scary at first, but I am enjoying the experience. And every episode is different, and I've grown a lot since then. And I could do another podcast if I wanted to. I don't know that I will. Maybe I will, but I never would have said I would be in this journey right here with you today. I never would have thought that. So that's pretty cool.
We all find our way here. We have our reasons for doing things. Usually, it's the hot thing. I'm tickled that you use the word authentic because the episode prior to this, I have one of my competitors on talking specifically about authentic and why, as a podcaster, I'm not afraid to have my competition on my podcast because I think that the people that we talk to are going to be our audiences, or the people that know, like, trust us. And so I can have my competition on because that's not taking away sales from me. If they're his sale, then they're his sale. That's always how it was supposed to be. So it's just funny that you mentioned that, like, right off the bat in episode two. Uh, but when we've had our discussions over the years as we've worked together, and I have vague recollection of what your reasons were for wanting to start a podcast and, like, how that aligned with your business interests at the time. But get into a little bit more of that for my audience here.
Well, truthfully, I thought doing a podcast would get my name out there, and I would attract hundreds of thousands of people. And ultimately, I would have more clients in my health coaching business. And what ultimately happened was it's a platform to share my knowledge, and in the hopes that people listen will take one or two steps away from it, and say, "Oh, that was really informative. I learned something new, and I'm doing something new." So um, I think everybody kind of goes into it with some grand idea, and then you just start to kind of narrow it down and funnel it, and it becomes what it's meant to be.
And I know, having done this as long as I have, we all find the reasons to continue. And for me, so much of the value is like, aside from like the friends that I've made over the years, it's the relationships that I've built. Because so many of the people that I've met through doing the podcast, well, in some ways, in very convoluted ways, it's worked out to be more business for me. The bigger thing is the opportunities that it has brought to me because of the people that I've had the chances to talk to and meet. That has been where the real value for me has been.
Right. Well, you are a relationship builder, and you're a connector. You really are. I've connected you to some people, and you've connected me to some people too, and it works and it's fun, and you end up being friends with these people, and that's a sign of I think a successful business owner is when you can say you're both friends and you have a client in this person or people.
It's funny, I was having a conversation with a gentleman today that I worked with for a number of years, and he was asking me about, the relationships with my clients. And unlike the business owners for that business, I have no interest in multi-year relationships with people who don't like me, don't want to work with me, but like I have they're kind of locked into this deal that we have, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good experience to me. Like, the people that I want to work with are the people that, like, we vibe, we get along, we can see the best future moving forward with people. And if I can't see that, like, why would I waste the time? There's too many other interesting people on missions that I align with that, I'd rather spend time talking to and helping them achieve those dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I feel that way too. I've always felt that way. It's really hard to have a client that you don't like because you end up not wanting to do the work or you procrastinate on it. Nothing is ever good enough for that client, and they're never going to be satisfied. And God, life is too short. But what I'm finding too with each guest I have, I think I present it in such a way that the door is always open to come back on my podcast. And there's an opportunity for me to reach out and say, hey, if I had some questions about something or I needed to refer someone to them, the door's open. And I think that's a win-win. I think that's kind of the beauty of what I'm doing and having these conversations. I'm building a relationship, but I'm also hoping to continue that relationship. Some of these people, I have even reached out for a second and third conversation, to have a series with them because they were so interesting and the feedback was so positive.
I'm curious. Like, you have a lot of very broad conversations, and there's a narrative that I see woven in there, and you know there's a core thrust of it. Obviously, as the guy that you work with, I would have told you, look, if you don't have something at the core, like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, you need to have that thing that people are interested in, or they're never going to watch and listen. But yours, you pick up a knowledge a lot of different places from a lot of different people, and I'm curious how that has affected, like, your own business and what you do. Like, is that change the way you approach things? Is that change even just your mindset in general, I guess?
That's a great question, Nikki. So when I did my health coaching training, we started out with this circle of life. And it was basically a pie split into 10 sections, and each section represented a part of our life because not everything in our life is diet and exercise. Not everything that relates to our health is our diet and exercise. It's our spirituality, it's our career, it's our finances, it's our home life, it's our cooking, it's our physical activity. I mean, there's even more than 10. It's just these were the 10 core, and so that's what I was really using as my basis for my podcast. Is let's see if I can find different people around that wheel to have on to support my circle of life um, work that I share with clients, so they can say, "You're right, boy." health is more than diet and exercise, and I need to be paying more attention to whatever that is. And so, it's only kind of one one thing's led to another. I've even had some offshoots of things. I would never have thought I'd have a hypnotherapist on my podcast, but yet it was a fascinating conversation, and it might not be something that I would find helpful in my journey for health, but someone else might, and that's why I think I have such a broad, base of clients that it might appeal to 1 or 2 different people one time and a whole different group another time.
Out of curiosity, what are the goals that you have at this point? How they would be different for the show from, say, your first 6 months?
So, yeah, the first 6 months, boy, I was pretty scared, you know? They say drop the first 5 or 6 episodes in right away, and then that gives you some time, and you just never know if it's gonna be received or not. So, um, that first 6 months was trial and error, and you can tell me there's a lot of error. I know, I'm not perfect, but you gotta start somewhere, and with each episode I did, I felt like I was improving. I was improving on the questions I asked. I was improving and getting more confident in my speaking abilities and recording abilities. And so what I was looking at in terms of the overarching goal of providing, knowledge has only gotten better, but has it really led to the first goal I had, which was to have more clients? It really hasn't. Um, I I don't know. I just feel like it's been a really creative outlet for me to share what I know, and I'd rather share more in this world now because people, they want to listen or they want to watch. Maybe they don't have time to read long emails or big newsletters, or they don't buy magazines anymore. I hope I answered your question. That was kind of a long
No,
way.
no, you did. You see, I don't even need to buy magazines because I've got the Baker Creek Seed Catalog. That's my magazine, and those pictures are unreal. Oh my god, those the plants they put in there, those big color spreads. Woo, I don't have to pay for that one. They send it to me every year for free.
I used to buy a lot of magazines. I mean, stacks and stacks, but it just seems like they're not making as many. And if they are, it's not very frequent and it's more expensive. So, this is a pretty low cost entry into a really creative opportunity.
No, you mentioned you were very nervous when you started out, and I find that interesting because obviously, coming from a coaching business, talking to people should be second nature to you. So the idea, I guess, of doing it on camera, like, so what is the thing that I guess brings the jitters that you'd get from in the beginning of? I mean, it's just talking to people. What's the matter if it's on camera or not?
Well, it's on camera. And believe it or not, I don't watch or listen to my podcasts. I don't. I
Well, I
am,
don't either,
I'm
but
Well, I think I'm more, self-critical. I would analyze things, what I didn't do right. Was I smiling? Was I making? But, I like being able to look at that person. Like, I like being able to look at you and have this conversations and as if we're sitting right across from one another, you know? I think the first few were just scary because they were new, and they were uncomfortable. And then when I threw it out there and they're like, wow, she's doing a podcast. And then I think, wow, I am doing a podcast. I guess I'm doing it now. You just go and you just do it and you let things evolve. And so I'm just think I've kind of let this evolve.
it actually brings me up a question. I don't know that I've ever asked anybody this before, but it's something that I personally know does matter. And it's obviously you had expectations of what the podcast would be when you started out. But what about the people around you? What were their expectations versus what are their expectations now?
Are we talking about people close to me or people that I've taught?
Yeah, like I'm thinking like family friends kind of thing. Because obviously, when you start doing this, it's not like it doesn't take up time, doesn't take up energy. It usually takes up a fair amount to do it right. And so they're like, "What are you wasting all this time doing this thing for? What are you getting?"
Silly little thing called a podcast. Yeah. Well, really good question. So my family is really traditional, stays in the same career pretty much their whole life. So I'm the black sheep in a good way. My career and my life has just taken different turns and corners, and they've all been interesting. And I think everything sort of led me to this time. I always think that. I'm also a little more progressive than my family. So when I throw something out there, it's a little more like I have really thought this through. Like I really mulled over the podcast idea for a while. But once I make that decision to do it, I just do it and I just throw myself completely in. And I think my siblings, I have three older siblings, they talk loosely around it, but they really don't understand it. And I think only maybe one of my siblings actually listens or watches podcasts. I know they're proud of me. I know they are. I just think it's so new and it's not that traditional thing. My younger nieces and nephews and my, stepchildren and their spouse really have been very supportive. And maybe it's a generational thing, Nikki. I don't know. But it comes up in a conversation with a group of friends, that I'm doing this podcast. I let my friends kind of speak for me. I don't make a big deal out of it. But my friends will say, "Oh, you have to listen to Susie's podcast." And someone will say, "What? She didn't tell me she has a podcast." And so I don't toot my own horn enough. And so
If your friends are asking that question, yeah, I'm gonna agree. You're not tooting your own horn enough.
yeah, yeah, I know. I know.
As the marketing guy, let me tell you.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Even the gentleman I was with today, who's a part of this business I've joined, was telling this other person what I was meeting. He said, "Can you believe Susie doesn't watch her own podcasts? She's so good." He said, "I just can't believe it." And I just said, I'm just good doing it and being in the moment. But
Anyone who says that has way too much time on their hands, in my estimation. That's why I don't. I don't have time to sit down for another hour and listen to my stuff. I had that conversation already. Time to move on. Have the next one.
yeah, I agree with you, Nikki. I do too. And you know, I just like being present, being in the moment of these conversations too. And I think that's what makes them authentic and makes me more authentic too. And that's how I feel. I feel truly authentic.
You spend too much time poring over what you said. No, if I could have done this differently, you what if yourself to death, and then you get too cautious in the conversations that you have next time. You, I don't know if I'm curious if you ever had the position where you over prepare and like you get there and like you don't have anything to ask your guests because you've already read everything you could ever want to read about them.
I think it was called the shortest podcast conversation that never made it to air. It did. And I was bored. I was truly bored with the conversation.
It's like this is going nowhere, and like you're not telling me anything that I couldn't get off of the bio on your webpage, kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's why, and I do like to, have some canned conversation, some canned questions, excuse me, that I do ask. There's some standard questions I ask, and then I might have a few others, but for the most part, it's organic. I'm asking questions that I think other people would ask this person too, and I get really excited and jazzed by it. So I would say the process of the podcast too. People like friends and family may say, "Why are you doing this?" And what's in it for you? Well, it's joy. It's fun. It's joy. I don't look at this as a money maker at this point. Maybe it will be, but at this point, it's worth the time and the money and the effort I'm putting in because I'm finding a system that works for me that, like this. I bulk up interviews. I try to bulk up interviews by quarter. So we record several at a time, and then you edit them and spit them back at me, and then I'll spend a good afternoon putting them on the various platforms and getting them scheduled. And then as they approach the time to air, I'll do another series of time. It's not that much time. It just takes a plan, and you stick with it. It becomes easier and easier each time you do it. So, it's fun. I don't know where this is leading, Nikki. I don't. I don't have a plan. But you know what? I'm starting year 2, and, I think that that's really a success for me. I never would have guessed that.
I know for me personally, I think because I've been doing this a very long time now, and I think back to some of just the I'll say most ridiculous conversations I've ever had in like the best way possible. It's like, was there ever a reason for me to have a PhD level um economist on to talk about the Beastie Boys and Les Mis? But I've had that conversation. I've talked to all kinds of people that I have frankly probably have no business actually talking to. Like, what we would never find ourselves in a room other than we connect on this one very interesting, very niche thing. And the enrichment of my life and frankly my business in that the skills that I've picked up talking to people, dealing with people, those things have all been far and away worth any time investment that I've made in this. For a long time, me and my wife podcasted together, and those were the I miss we both miss doing that because man, it was so much fun to have that time every week. We knew we were gonna get to hang out, and we'd hang out with somebody else. We talk and have our weird little discussions. But it's just the personal growth from those discussions is always, I think, there's nothing anyone can take away from me from all that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and what better way to do that too with your spouse when you're just hanging out, and, I just feel like we're having a conversation. I could probably do it in a coffee shop and record this, or I could be in my living room. We could change the setting, but we're still having a conversation.
I've actually known a few people that actually did record all of their podcasts in like a Starbucks in like a back one of the back booths. That's just how they chose to podcast. Just having coffee.
I know. Actually, I referred someone to you. I won't use his name, but I suggested that he have his podcast in his favorite bar, surrounded by his friends, and just make it a really informal thing, and maybe that bar would sponsor him. You know.
That does actually happen. I've actually seen that. Like, because you can build up an audience locally for stuff like that. And especially if you do sports themed podcasts, they really, really easily make that happen. So, it's just it's a natural kind of pairing thing that works. So I've actually ran sound for live podcasts in bars by people like that before. So
That can't be easy.
yeah, I mean the sound part of it's I've done this for way too long. It is easy, but you tell you that's just people talking. Let me tell you about how it is working with a band with a bunch of people on
Yeah.
stage, and
Didn't think about that.
I mean the average drum kit has more mics than any podcast I've ever seen. And there's phasing issues with that. You don't have phasing issues with people talking usually. So, anyways, Susie, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to my audience today. Like, I love hearing your story. I love seeing how podcasting has affected you and how you've both grown and changed, but like still been the same person throughout this. So, if there any of my guests or any of my audience are interested in learning more about you and what you do, learning about your podcast, where can we send them?
Well, my podcast, first of all, is called SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. SOS happens to be my initials. You can reach me on Facebook at Susan St. Angelo Coaching LLC. You can reach me on Instagram at St. Angelo Susan. You can reach me on LinkedIn at Susan St. Angelo. You can send me an email at susan@creatingnewjoy.com.
Right on. Well, thank you once again for coming on today, Susan.
Well, thanks so much
Susie.
for having me. I enjoyed chatting with you, and it's good to see you for a change instead of just via sending you little
It
help me
just
messages.
be a messenger.
Thanks so much for including me.